Is hyper-targeting over? Why going broad might be a smart solution in PPC? Good morning, Ben. How's it going?
Hi, Julius. Can't complain. Pretty interesting topic. I think that targeting is currently broadly discussed in pretty much every marketing department. Did you hear anything from client side or colleagues about this topic so far?
Yes, I've actually discussed this quite a bit with our colleague Tristan yesterday, because now in one collaboration have just gone very far down the personalization route of super targeted personas and getting creative built that is very relevant to just this very large set of personas.
Super niche, actually.
Super niche, yeah. And we then kind of had a discussion about how should we put these out into the platforms. How should we target them on Google via keywords and on Meta by interests and job titles, etc. And in the past, we've always gone, I'd say, with a hyper-targeted approach. I think with keywords, we've been very, very specific. We've often been a fan of setting them as precisely as possible, not using any of the broad or AI Max features that are available on Google, and getting as much out of the targeting on Meta. Yeah, so we've actually discussed that it maybe makes sense to take one step back and let the algorithm and the users actually do the work for us. So for example, on Meta, putting the creative just based on interests. We thought Meta will not have accurate job descriptions to target people on. So we've mostly gone by interests and then put the persona, almost the title of the persona or a hook that is really relevant to the persona, either in the first few seconds of the video or in the main text, so the primary title. So that when a person that fits our persona sees this video or this creative, they stop scrolling because it seems, this is relevant for me, for my job title. I'm going to stop scrolling. And then the Meta algorithm will show this to more people like this. And yeah, we'll just put this out broadly and let the algorithm do the rest. It's only been a week. It's going well. Some creative not so well, but I think that's more the fault of the creative, not the targeting. Yeah, what's your opinion on that? Do you see that's a general trend in the industry?
Definitely, yes. I think, but there are two aspects to consider. So, why is it in the interest of a platform to recommend this setup? Because it obviously makes competition more equal.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you ramp up a creative without targeting, someone else ramps up a creative without targeting, obviously there's more parity in strength, which brings more competition, and that's actually quite good for the platform, because what for an advertising platform is most crucial is that they have good chances for smaller companies, but also bigger accounts to really drive good returns. So that's the thing I would consider as sometimes we should be careful in following their advice or considering that this advice isn't really the best advice for every advertiser. If there is a good short-term measuring, let's say you have a digital shop. So if you're working for e-commerce, you can trace in B2C very easily the revenue you generate. So that's a no-brainer. You can work with broad. You can test it, and it's quite likely that it will be the best approach because the machine just has extremely good data points in understanding if something performs, audience performs, timing performs. So, but that's short-term, very accurate in measuring. So if you have a very short window where you can track revenue generated, that's pretty much the currency you need for feeding an algorithm. When you have a longer deal cycle, it gets more tricky because data accuracy shrinks. So let's say you're selling cars. For cars, it's quite tricky as well because probably you don't buy the car just with one click. Maybe you do it. Some people do it for Tesla, I think. But the longer the deal cycle gets, the less accurate the data is. And if you have no data accuracy, obviously broad targeting is a stupid idea. And then there comes the next component, which is sales. If you put a sales manager between marketing and purchase, so you just look at the timeline, this means that there's a human component that needs to be considered as very influential for the data generated. So if you have someone who's not selling, obviously you're not generating any conversion data if you trace really purchase events, which means your campaigns will never work because you don't have someone who's able to really sell. If you're just tracing leads generated and you have a long deal cycle and a complex product and you work with a broad targeting, it's very, 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 very likely that you will generate shitty leads. Why? Because an algorithm tries to find ways to increase the leads generated. If you don't differentiate between an SQL or between, then obviously, you will have great numbers, but the revenue generated from that is not really good. So my recommendation is clearly think of your product. If you have a digital shop where you say where your first touch point to sales between 5 minutes and 30 days, just work with broad targeting. It's very smart, specifically in B2C. If you have a longer deal cycle, B2B or expensive B2C products, let's say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, I would still have a targeting. You don't necessarily have to use a super granular targeting. But let's go to very complex products, account-based marketing. If you really know exactly the audience, you have a target account list, you have a contact list, obviously you should use it. If you can't sell to anyone else than to those on the list, you shouldn't spend a single euro on anything that is not on the list. So this is probably also the biggest untapped opportunity in B2B marketing, to really tailor the campaigns far better to the audience and have target account lists and contact lists and really work with a far more granular setup.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess the last aspect is also costs, right? In a broader setup, you will always have more kind of experimentation and the algorithm spending maybe money on impressions that aren't as close to your target audience. Sometimes that may bring something, but overall it may also waste budget.
Yeah, there are so many examples specifically in B2B marketing. Let's just consider a case where you have to promote something to C-level of banks. Okay, you have C-level of banks, let's take Europe, you probably have an audience size of 5,000 to 10,000. If you go with a broad targeting, you can literally just spend your money on nothing. I think that's a good example where obviously broad targeting is absolutely stupid. But if you're selling, let's say, nice clothes for babies, obviously the approach to say, okay, hey, you just create a creative and then say, hey, are you a mom? You searching for organic clothing for your baby? Then you don't have to be super specific. I mean, that's what Meta knows. LinkedIn probably doesn't know it. I'm not sure, but yeah. So I think there's not this one approach in general. And if someone says, yeah, everything is broad now, I would say that's probably stupid. And if someone says everything is super narrow in targeting, it's also stupid. So there's not a one-fits-all solution.
Yeah, a nuanced approach makes sense there. How is it for Google and keyword targeting? What's your current opinion on the state of AI Max and those things, letting go of keyword control that we've...
Well, I think it's super interesting. I mean, obviously, keyword control is somewhere lost when we speak about LLMs anyway. So there will be more targeting for intent. But what we can see is that working with AI if you have a very decent keyword strategy, it can be that AI expands the reach, which is not necessarily good. It can be that it's just spending money on stuff that is not relevant. But overall, also there, when we speak about shopping, you should use all AI features for shopping, because shopping has, in e-commerce for B2C, it has a clear feedback. It knows, okay, there was a sale, and you don't care if the sale was from Mr. A or Mr. B or Mr. C. In B2B, far more tricky. You still have the component, okay, there's sales coming after. You need to have a qualified lead, not just a random person filling a form. And I think with more complexity, still I see probably a majority of the collaborations where a good keyword targeting and a good keyword strategy outperforms the fully automated solution, which is when you just consider why something might not perform well. Quite obvious. What you can see is activating PMAX in a complex B2B product is typically increasing the leads. You will see it. Then you look at the leads and everyone says, yep. If you work with qualified leads, that's a better approach, but obviously then you depend on the sales team a lot. So you kind of meld together sales and marketing, and this will result in you bidding less on potential customers that might have been good, but sales didn't perform. And yeah, that's obviously also not a good solution. I think there's not this one solution for B2B specifically. That's super easy.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's just still so much complexity in B2B that we as an agency still have a place to add value there. Yeah.
Super human, complex. You have a lot of buyers, a lot of touch points, long deal cycles, everything that is actually good.
Yeah, nice. I think that's it for today.
All right. Thanks, Julius. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Ben. See you next week.
Bye-bye.